Hello and welcome to the Screen Chronicles. I'm Colby. With me as always is Steve, and today we're joined by a very special guest. He played one of the most interesting new characters in season 5 of The Last Kingdom as Rognvaldr, the brother of Sigtrygr. Micki Stoltt, welcome to the Screen Chronicles.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Micki. We really enjoyed your character this season. He was a new monkey wrench in the whole system here with The Last Kingdom, and it was pretty interesting, the little arc that you had coming in as a new cast member too to the final season of a show.
Yeah, that was also an interesting thing to take on, not really be in it from the beginning and just have to just be launched into this thing. So that was really fun.
Were you a fan of The Last Kingdom before getting into it?
Well, I have been following it because I have actually, this was not my first audition for The Last Kingdom. It was my fourth. So,
wow.
So it's I have followed it from quite far back.
What other roles did you audition for?
I auditioned for Sigtrygr, and then I actually auditioned for Sigtrygr, which was fun. So it was well, when I saw him on screen, I was like, oh, we really looked alike. I thought when I saw him, then afterwards, who had gotten the part, and it was Ace. So it was we really look like each other.
And he said the same thing. We just talked to him the other day about how when they were looking for someone to play his brother, and he found out that it was you, he looked you up and he was like, oh my God, he looks exactly like me. And I think most of the fans can probably agree. I know I said to my girlfriend as we were watching, I was like, oh my God, I almost looked if you guys were actually related,
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun because we do also feel a little bit like brothers. We have so many interesting. It's we feel like brothers because him and I, we really are. We have gotten a little bit of a big brother, little brother thing going on. With we had that connection, and it's when we look so much alike, it's just so much fun. We think so too.
He was telling us that you did some building to try and build that brother relationship going on. I know one thing you told us, you guys watch Warrior, was something that sort of gave you sort of that dynamic there. What were some things you looked for building that sort of connection there?
Well, we did see Warrior, but it was also just because Warrior was such a good reference to the whole energy, because it becomes a lot about energies and about, because we wanted them to resemble each other, but also still siblings can be they can just be so different. I knew straight from the beginning that this amazing character that Ace brings to the table as Sigtrygr, just straight from the beginning, he just comes in with a bang, in season 4, and I really admire what he has turned Sigtrygr into. By the way, I say Sigtrygr because that's how Rognvaldr says it.
Right.
So, so if anyone is confused why I'm not saying Sigtrygr, then that's why. But I was just okay, I have to do something that is just not that, because any sibling would not try to take on that much of that persona. They also want to differentiate ourselves.
Sure.
We want to be our own persona. So it's what is the actual opposite? And we actually talked about that. Me and Ace is what is the opposites of of these two characters, and then I wanted to approach it like that. We also we did talk a lot about their backstory and why they are why they don't have the good connection. And basically me and Ace, we had so many ideas also about what we were going to talk about, and then we ended up just talking about ourselves, which just naturally gave us this connection. So yeah, that was how it happened, I think.
What were you looking at as far as this is what I'm going to be the opposite of sort of directions there?
With the opposites, it's if you have a big brother that you look up to, and he is this very, very strong, calm type, then that is really, really hard to live up to. And I think at some point you feel like you can't do that, because a big brother and an older sibling will always be one step ahead. They will always be that year older or those year older. They will always know that little bit more. I'm a little brother myself, and my brothers, I have 2 brothers and they're twins, and they've always been a step ahead with just their physicality, everything. So it's like for me as a little brother, that was also like a part of the description of Rognvaldr was that he has this bravado persona, and that was also what I got. And that's like the little brother often is like, wow, is like out there. They are a little bit more energetic and all over the place. And I wanted him to really be like a little brother. So like my core of him is like a child. He always goes from a child perspective. And that is, for me, that is also opposite of Sigtryggur, because he's like so grounded and he is like so calculated in everything he does. He looks far. He has plans like so way out in the future. Rognvaldr doesn't. He has it's like 10 minutes from now. If he's hungry, he's going to go eat, and then he's going to go do something else. You know, it's always those short things. Right.
He's sort of like the black sheep of the family, or you know, which is really interesting and pretty cool to see. Yeah. And it definitely came across. I also loved the connection you had with him, because there is a deep love between you two that goes deeper into probably your backstory, and you know, you guys are raised together. And so both of those things come across for sure.
Great. Well, we really tried. We really wanted them, when we knew that from the beginning, that even though we could see the direction it was going, then we definitely wanted them to have love.
Right.
We didn't want their relationship to be something you weren't cheering for. Like we wanted people to sit and be like, okay, we want these characters to actually end up with a relationship, and then situations should be the thing that causes it to go wrong.
Totally, yeah.
And emotions.
Totally.
But we want the love. We wanted the love from the beginning.
That's definitely how we felt. We were both hoping, like, man, it looks like after, you know, holding the frying iron that you had walking with, I was like,
man,
he's got to come back now, right?
Now I've paid my debt. And it's also like, it's like so many people, it's like I love reading comments about Rognvaldr, because so many just love to hate him. And it's just like they just love to hate him, and I really understand it. But it's just coming from that perspective. I'm always coming from a perspective where I always defend my character. I always defend them. There was always a reason. It's like, and I think that for humans in general, it's like there is always a reason. And when we dig deep enough, we can sort of, maybe we don't understand their actions, but we understand how they ended up there. We understand what caused it. And I don't know how much you guys know about this whole story, but there is a line where I'm like, slept before the ice rivers of Ireland.
Right.
Or that whole line about that he's saying there when they're about to cross the ice. And it's because like Sigtryggur left him to die.
Yeah.
So he just took off and left Rognvaldr there. So for me, that is like, give me a really big reason to come back and be like, hey, Brita, let's go in and like try to, I wanted to get connection with him from that, because like I've tried to come in, but it's like, I think they have both made mistakes from where I see it.
It's a great point. And he does say that while talking to Steor about you in one scene, that he mentions feeling the guilt of leaving you there. And I think that plays a little bit into him accepting you more. I mean, obviously the brotherly love is another reason why, but he's also a little feeling guilty.
Yeah, and that was, like I said, is like about the emotions, and that's why Rognvaldr sort of has like, he can wrap him a little bit around his little finger, even though he, like Sigtryggur know that Rognvaldr is trouble, but he can like Rognvaldr can like do small things and get him to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Even though it like, gives him like immense trouble. So so that's fun, and I think siblings can do that, and that's the thing about family.
And I loved too, your entrance to the show was pretty awesome. We were hearing your name, your character's name, and as this like vicious Viking who's raiding, and then when you enter the courtyard drunk, and we kind of see that your true colors. Not that he's not a bad fighter, but you know, Sigtryggur said he's been paying people to say this. So what was it like to do that scene, when you were drunk, with the priest and everything?
That was my first scene.
Was it? I was going to ask.
The first scene I did, it was like, because it's like we didn't do everything chronologically, but that was my first scene, and I gotta admit it was quite full on to me to be on this like big Netflix production, and like the big budget, and like come in and being a Viking, like just playing drunk in general is not the easiest thing, because you want to do it convincingly. But then he is a guy pretending to be really drunk. He's a little bit drunk, but he's pretending to be really drunk and out of his senses from that. And then it's like to find that thing in between for me was like, how am I gonna go? How am I gonna go about it? And that's also why I think that's like the scene where I just give it everything, because I think that was what he would have done. He would have just overacted a little bit in order to pretend that he was like really, really drunk.
Sure.
So I think that's also why he is so much in that scene. He's really a lot and all over the place, which is just so much fun. It was so much fun to do. And
screaming at priests.
Screaming at priests. And
Jesus loves you.
Jesus loves you. And it's just, it was a really fun thing to do. And just that I got to do that. It was like, that was the fun thing about the part. It's like it was so much comedy. It's like he's falling back. He's just drunk, so drunk that he like falls into his back and he just drops down. And that was so fun that I got to do something like that in a show like The Last Kingdom, because it's not that common that we have these kind of scenes. And because of course I've watched the rest of it, and it's like Heston has a lot of them.
Right.
And Jeppe is really amazing as well. Love that character.
Oh yeah.
To be able to give a little bit of comic relief here and there is just, for me, I just think it's really great for a show like this. So it doesn't all become either politics or war.
Right. Right. When you do fall back, I'm just like, I like this character already. And then obviously things twist in a little bit, you know.
Yeah, but okay, so what did you guys think? So let me hear, what did you guys think of that scene? What did you think when you saw Rognvaldr?
So first of all, we did not read the books before watching it. So I know that your character's sort of based on Ragnall from the books, because that's Sigtryggr's brother, but it's obviously changed a lot. All I was hearing was about how badass he was from Uhtred and the guys, and all of a sudden you came in and was drunk, and I like I just said, like I was like, I like this character. It's kind of new, it's funny, and then when we see that you're pretending to sleep, I'm like, oh, he's interesting. He's like, I want to know more. You know, that was my first impression from that scene and your entrance to the show.
Yeah, I felt like he was definitely trying to sell that he was incompetent, is what I got. When I saw it, I was like, no, there's no way this guy is like that much, you know. So that's where I was coming from. And I was like, he's definitely going to be a troublemaker here. But then like there would be the moments like when you're at the table and I'm like, oh, maybe they are good brothers. And this is just one of those comedic Dane moments, because that's what we love the show for, the Danes too. That's what got us into it. Is just like Rune Tempte, Zaba, and Jeppe,
the brothers, so many.
Yeah, there's so many great. They were always the funny parts of the show, right? So I was like, maybe that's just what he is. Maybe that's just Rune. But yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, great. It's always fun to hear what people think, about entrances and what their immediate thought about a character is,
It made me excited for sure. It made me excited. I was like, this guy's going to make the show pretty interesting, I think. And the first episode, you really do with that huge twist at the end. And it's one of my favorite early scenes, the way they did it, where like the voices are building and you're sort of saying things to your brother, like you trust your enemies too easily or something like that.
You're too accepting of enemies.
Exactly. And what a way to start a season, I thought.
Yeah.
With that twist. And for Sigtryggur to be fooled, it would have to be someone he trusts, I think, to betray him, right?
Yeah, so lucky. So well written. It's such a well written, just like the whole series. So I was just so lucky. Lucky to be able to get the opportunity to do something like that.
Yeah. One of the things too that I noticed before that awesome scene was when you're at the table with Sigtryggur and Stiora, and you end up passing out in the food, and then Ruby Harley Stiora comes over and like lifts up your head, and then she like really puts your head down like really hard. Like, did she like smash your head?
Yeah, I said Ruby. It's just slam it down. Just do it. And it was like, because it was for some takes she did that, and I think maybe they've added the sound, but I really wanted it to be like that because it's so much fun if she's just going for it.
Totally. And it looked like, I don't know, did it hurt? What did it feel like?
Yeah, it hurt a little bit some of the time, but it was also like I tried to prevent it from hurting too much, because it was like I can't walk around with like a big blue thing here. I was like, yeah, okay, let's just do it a couple of times, then it's gonna be good.
I was like, geez, when that happened.
But man, it's like I'm like a vegetarian, and laying in that cold meat sauce for like several hours. That was just
oh
my god!
That must
I
be
could
tough.
see it. Like I could see it when the prop department came and the people who were giving us all the things and preparing the food, making it look nice, and they were like, "Okay, now you just put your head down there." And it was just like cold. They had tried to heat it a little bit so it was a little bit warm for my face, but it was like after 10 minutes it was just cold. And then we had a couple of hours of shooting.
Oh my god.
So we rehearsed it. Fortunately, we rehearsed it without the goulash thing first, but it was just I had it like way up my nose in the
Oh, is that right? I was gonna say it was all over
in the thing, just below. I was like trying not to breathe too hard because I was like blowing bubbles in the goulash. So I was like, okay.
That's funny. Yeah, and then right after that, you had another scene that got me pretty pumped. There was a picture right before it was released. I think it said like 2 days or something. The one with you putting the paint on. We're starting to see his true colors here. Like what's going. We don't exactly know what he's going to do, but it's pretty sweet moment there. It just got me hyped.
Obviously, at working with Brita because of the white face paint stuff, and like, ooh, here we go.
The white stuff. Yeah,
right.
That was also fun, and it's just great. It's just great to get to smear something in your face and have all these things. And I had to get to have a lot of blood through the series, like things you rarely get to do. So I just loved everything. I was like, more. Always said to the makeup department, more. They also, it took a long time sometimes for the blood because it was so.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, we were talking like you got so many cool scenes this season and unique scenes, a lot of action scenes. Now, one of our favorites, which is a pretty unique Last Kingdom scene, was the trial later on. And we definitely got to talk about this. And I think I saw an Instagram post where you said it was a pretty challenging scene to shoot.
Yeah, it's definitely the most challenging scene ever.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it was so hot, Colby. It was.
I know it was real, right?
Have you ever been carrying a boiling hot iron rod? No. No, but it was one of my most challenging scenes, definitely. Well, for me, there was many things to it because for me, it was a highly emotional scene. To go in and make a pain like that believable, try to make it believable and be like, because I read it on paper, and having a trial where he puts his hands into boiling water and afterwards carries this hot iron for 9 steps, and he's about to lose his grip and is about to be slaughtered by and there's so many things before as well, where it's like he has this, of course, emotional connection because not only is this happening, but it is his brother that is in charge of it, and he's the one who is going to kill him,
right,
if he fails.
Exactly.
And this was also really a thing where, to me, it shows his strength. To me, this is one of the only few times where it really shows Rognvaldr's strength. And throughout the rest of this season, he's kind of cowardly. We don't really know can he really fight? Can he not fight? And we see him sneak away so many times, and it's just this is really a time where he can actually. He carries this hot iron rod. So I really wanted it. I wanted to show the strength, but also to show that it's really immensely painful.
Yeah.
This was half a day of shooting. And also because it was so unique that we were ending an episode and beginning the next one. So I also, of course, knew that this would have to be something that needed to catch the audience, because if they saw the last picture of me and they were like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's hot. I don't believe this thing, what's going on. We want people to want to see the next episode. And of course we can cut in between, but in the end, it's my emotions and it's my thing. So if they don't have anything to cut to, it's
And it was believable. It was believable. The snot and the saliva was
raw and
I'm actually for that scene I was inspired by. Have you guys seen Bronson?
Most of it.
Bronson is the film with Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy, and there's a scene.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, and there's a scene where he's like, he needs to get a sedative because this whole mental institution for criminals, they need to calm him down, and he gets a sedative in his butt, and he's like laying there, and then he's like about to get really sedated, and there's like snot running out of his nose, and I was like, fuck, it's brilliant. It's like brilliant acting. I was like, if I can get just a little bit of snot or saliva running out of my mouth, it would be amazing. And fortunately, I don't know what happened, but that day I had tears, and like I have a picture that was taken where I have tears, and I have like there's like a lot of saliva running out of my mouth, and there's just like snot dripping from my nose. They just took this little snot where it just quickly comes out, and then they cut away, and I was like, I wanted there to be more snot actually. Because I thought it was so funny, because it's also something where finally I have a character where it doesn't ruin anything. There's such a big difference if it's like a character like Uhtred that all of a sudden is like where his snot is running out of his nose. It's not really, we don't really want that. But like a character like Rognvaldr, it's like okay that he can be a little bit disgusting. So I got happy and really loved that there was some snot there. And people have really commented on that snot thing, and to be honest, I'm a little bit proud that it's not fake, that it is my own.
It is real. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, is that real?
It is real. It's my own snot. It's like everything.
Did you just like partially blow your nose before the scene, or like how do you do it? Like,
but no, because for me it was emotions, because every actor has their technique, and I'm using something called the Chopper technique, and we always like put emotional images on everything. So I'm not going to go too much into exactly what it is, because we always keep our things very private. So
absolutely
private things, but in the scene there's something very, very, very emotionally I'm carrying. So that just makes me highly emotional. I can even feel it now, like that thing that I was carrying. When I did that over and over again, I really just got into a thing where I just have to carry this thing, and it was just like so like painful emotionally. So I was like, that's why I have so much. So when you're just sad, it's just you have snot.
Wow.
That was just what I wanted, to have that authenticity where he's like he can't think about snot when he's in that situation. So
is that what did you use that, whatever that imagery was, did you use that too for like the pain too? Is that what you used it for?
Yeah, it's like the emotional pain. It's like we use it for something that has happened. So it's like that emotional pain, and the brain doesn't really distinguish between emotional and physical pain. It just reacts to it. So and then it just comes across on screen as an expression. So for me, that works really well. And for this scene, I was just so lucky to have that technique, but also just it was such an amazing scene to be able to do.
And so what else made it hard? Was it just getting there? Was it just accessing that for you, or was there other elements that made it hard?
Yeah, and then there was of course there's always those elements that is like acting is all about hurry up and wait, so you have to get yourself into that state, and then when you are in those emotions, they're like, okay, we need to get the camera ready. Okay, we have an airplane, we need to wait for a couple of minutes, and it's like you're just standing there and you're just like, you have all these mental images, and it was just, and we were standing outside. Luckily, it was the warmest day.
I was going to ask you.
Time, but it was still cold. We were shooting this in March or April, so it was like still cold to be outside, very cold, and with no shirt on.
And so, what was it that you picked up? Was it a heavy bar? Or?
It wasn't. It was like it's of iron, so it has like weight to. It had weight to it.
Just holding it at arm's length for 9 steps would just like your shoulders would be burning at that time anyway. Let alone being super hot.
Exactly.
But for you,
not a lot. It was a bit like it was not like it was super heavy, but it was like if you have like when you're lifting weights, just without the weights, but it's just the iron thing. So holding that thing, but doing that for half a day is good for your physique.
You probably had to ice your shoulders at the end of the day on that one.
It was okay. It was fine. But it's like, again, if you're in the emotions, it's like everything comes together. So it is like I wanted it to be heavy, because then it's like that's where I want to struggle. Did you feel adrenaline then at that point? Or yeah. It was, and also I went in and out of like also tiredness. And then it's like you just have to use that. Of course, he's like hugely tired from screaming just like from 5 steps, it's like things start to get tiresome. So it's like it's just about and
he does take the knee at that one point, we think that Sigtrygger's going to do it. he gets up. We were pumped at that scene. We were like, let's get to the end. At first we were thinking, take the 9 steps real quick feet. Like, what to do if I sit down, you know?
Yeah, and that was the thing. I was like reading it and I was like, why isn't he just, you know, just running? Right. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you know? Yeah. But it's like, because he can only take the steps when Sigtryggur says, now you can take it. So it's like, otherwise he has to not move. But okay, so let me ask you this. Did you want him to fail or did you want him to win?
I wanted more of him. Even though he did some pretty shitty stuff, you know, betrayed his brother, I was interested in his character. I wanted more. So I was rooting for him to make it to the end for sure.
I changed. It was when he first went out, I was like, let's burn off the hands. Let's get the guy. But when you fell and you took the knee, I was like, come on, man. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Great. Okay, because it's just always fun to hear, because when you go in and you're playing someone who's like really fucking everything up for a character that is so liked as Sigtryggur, it's like not easy to get people to vote for you, man. It's not really. So I think many people would just wanted him to just get out at this point. For me, it's like more, I understand it with the character, because it's like he is going in and like really not making things easier. But that is also part of the fun thing.
Like you said, this is the first time you get to see, like, the dude has to be strong, right? Like you could be, if you're just straight weasel shit, like there's no way you're gonna, first of all, stick your hands in the water, and then secondly, keep going, right? So I mean, that's what I got won over with him. I was like, all right, like I want this guy to be 100 now. Let's
it's
go.
like he proved himself to us too, you know, like it's like, okay, like
everyone else is like, okay, he can offer some strength and not just cowardly snakiness to everything. Yeah.
But I was also glad when it was revealed that you didn't get executed by that like perfectly like precise spike to the back of the neck, that Wallen just is a master executioner.
Master. I was like, also just having to do that scene, and all of a sudden it was like he was just leaning that thing on me, you know. It's just having that feeling. It's just it was fun, but it was really like, yeah, okay, there is someone leaning something like that to my neck.
Yes, I'm gonna talk my way out of this.
How is he gonna really talk his way out of it? And and again, just Jaakko, who's playing Wallen, he's just also doing such an amazing job. And it's always like, he's just awesome.
Yeah. And speaking of emotional moments, there's one that we kind of skipped over when you put Sigtryggur's head in the water, when you're like drowning him.
Oh yeah.
What do you think was going through Rognvaldr's mind there? Was he was he just really hoping Brita was going to cut him off, or did he get to a point where he was like, I'm going to commit and finish off my brother here?
No, he was not committed to it at all. Yeah. It's like, if he was committed to it, for me, he would, like, to be honest, he would have done it.
Yeah.
Because if that was the thing, he could have gotten more out of proving himself to Brita by being like, no, now I'm going to finish this.
Right.
Like, I want my brother gone. So it was like, and that's also why I think he's screaming out, and he's like looking for people around him to rescue him from this situation a little bit. And again, it's like, I think we took that decision very early on, and luckily we felt that from the script, and the script was going in that direction, that they don't want to kill each other, those brothers. Right. They love each other, and they ultimately just want to find a way to have a good relationship. This is just like a bad relationship amped up because they're Vikings, you know. It's like that's what happens. It's like, it's not just that you're not invited for a birthday. You are like left to die in Ireland, or you are trying to get killed. You know, that's the things. But no, for sure, he don't want to kill his brother.
Right. What was it like doing that scene too, holding his head down in the bucket?
That was fun.
Was it?
It was fun. It was like, but also because it was Ace, you know. It was like, at that point, me and Ace had like spent so much time together, and me and Ace are still, you know, we're really hitting it off, and we're really, really good friends. And to be able to do these scenes together, also I think for him to be the brother, like with the Iron Rod last time, is like they put each other in those situations where it is uncomfortable. But it's really fun to play, and because I could feel that I trusted him so much in his abilities to like just to get up if he didn't, like acting wise, like as an actor, I knew that Ace would just come up if I did anything that was unpleasant. So I was just like giving it what I got.
Gotcha. That's cool to have that trust with each other.
Yeah.
It's really neat. That's
Another
fun.
crazy scene after that one too, that like I was like, what, was when you had I think it was all the stewards, like crew out in the yard, and
yes.
Brida's daughter was going through like marking off the sacrifices.
Oh yeah.
And then she grabs your hand, Rognvaldr's hand at the end, and I was just like, what? Was there any like discussion at all? Like, were they ever thinking like, oh, like this is where you get it, or was it always like, nah, Brida's gonna step in?
Well, it was always in the script where like Brida's gonna step in. But of course, when I read the scene the first time, I was like, no, this is how I'm gonna die, man. This is how he's gonna die. And that was also, it's like also when we're talking about it, I remember just having that feeling over and over again, because actually he comes into quite, like, for only being there in like one season, he comes into quite a lot of these like almost dying situations.
Yeah.
Which was really fun to have those almost moments. No, it was always meant to that Bree was going to save him, because she needs him and he's just a puppet to her, and she needs that puppet because he's like the golden ticket in some way also into Sigtryg's, maybe not heart but mind, both heart but also mind in some sort of way.
I wondered too if it was like somewhat of a reward, because you did just pull off a huge mission for her, but I you know, it was obvious she saw Rognvaldr as an asset for her. You know,
exactly, and you don't want to lose a warrior.
That was an awesome moment, and so tense. And yeah, like you just said, I'm realizing now there were a ton of moments where I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't die here. There were a ton of moments.
Yeah, also when we were talking about it, also it's like, because filming it is like, it feels not slow, but it like, because it takes such a long time, you feel like, okay, now it's this scene and this scene and this scene, so you don't really feel it in that way. But I could also feel it when I watched it. I was like, oh, Rognvaldr is pretty close to like dying all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, he's not a very fortunate character. He's not lucky.
I'm just picturing you reading the script like, oh no. Okay, good. Just repeatedly.
And then, yeah, that was also the thing. I was just like, when am I going to die? Because it's ought to happen at some point.
And you end up a king.
And I ended up a king. What? And that was amazing. That was amazing that he finished off in that way. Because of course, I love Rognvaldr. I don't know, like, of course, where they wanted to go. And they, of course, they were writing as well as we did it. So you got two scripts at a time. So I never knew exactly if he was going to die or not going to die. So I was so fortunate to work with the woman that has made the Chobok technique, Ivana Chobok. I have her as a coach, and she coached me on this show. And yeah, she's amazing. She also coached Travis Fimmel for Vikings.
Oh, cool.
You know, has coached Brad Pitt and Halle Berry. So she's just really amazing. She's really, really good. She said, we're going to fight to keep your character alive. That was our point all the time. We want to keep him alive. We want to keep him. And that's what's also a part of like having the love put in, because we want to cheer. We want people to cheer for him. And as you say, we want people to sit and think, I hate him, but I actually don't want him to die.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you achieved. And there were times I did not hate him, you know, obviously, but there were times I hated him.
Make me happy.
I would say after, like I said, after the Iron, I was pretty much for him, and then we get the battle at Ethelhelm's camp. Your character, I mean, he's tearing it up, and then there's an amazing scene with you and Sigtrygr when you're fighting back to back at the battle, which was just amazing.
It was so cool. It was so cool.
What was it like doing all of those scenes?
I got to do. Thank you so much, guys, for having me on the show, because I'm just getting reminded of that was actually also a cool scene. That was actually also quite cool. You know,
just, like I'm saying, here's so many good scenes. You know,
that was amazing to do, and it was amazing to get to have that fight scene.
I thought it was like sort of Avengers style, like the way you guys were like diving under each other, and it just shows that somewhere in their past, like they trained together or something. I don't know if you're a Star Wars fan. It was sort of like a Anakin Obi-Wan sort of thing. Like they know each other's moves so well that they can just like, he knows he's going to be swinging here, so I'm going to duck and get the guy behind him, and it was so cool.
Exactly. And there it was like we really also wanted to take that opportunity to show that they are really caring They love each other, and that was also why, because we had made that, it came quite naturally, and that was brilliant from Ace's side that he pulled Rognvaldr in for a hug.
Yes.
You know, and that was like, it came out of the moment, but it was like, I don't know if he had decided it or not, but that was like amazing that he did that, because that was like the acknowledgement for me that Rognvaldr had been fighting for throughout like the whole thing,
just trying to prove himself.
That's also why it was just instantly, I just went in and just hugged him. Like Rognvaldr just he hugs him a little bit like a little brother, like coming in like, oh,
so cool,
no, great, finally. And he's just like there, like the big brother, just like good, you know. But it was like really, really, it was a really great moment and really amazing.
Yeah, when we do our episode recaps, we pick bro moments because there's so many moments of camaraderie in The Last Kingdom ever since season 1, and that one of our bro moments, that episode, that your hug and that fighting sequence together.
And Ace was telling us too, you have some sort of background as a trained stuntman too, right?
Yeah, which it was also a little bit unfortunate because when we were doing our first scene, many of these days happened a lot, not on the same day, but in like I think the same week. It was not that far from each other, and one of the first days when we were doing one of the big fight scenes, my axe got caught in like a cape of one of the extras, so I pulled my shoulder. So like I don't think I was like fighting with like a shoulder that was like just sore for like a whole month from that point on. I didn't really think that my skills as a stunt performer really came out, but I'm educated from the Australian Stunt Academy. So I am also teaching basic stunt and stage fight.
That's awesome.
It's more technical than I'm not a skilled fighter, but I'm for scenes, for film, I'm okay. I know the basics.
I thought it looked great. I liked a couple of the beats in that battle, and one like you shoulder check a guy and then swing your axe at him. Just, you know, we look for little things like that. And you look good fighting. And I was going to ask what your fighting background was because it looked pretty solid.
But we had some great fight choreographers, like Lavender was really great. So
yeah, he's awesome.
He's amazing, and he was amazing to work with. I was just so impressed with Ace. You know, Ace is like, he was just giving it everything, and I was really, really impressed with his fighting skills, like how they came across, because he's just have so much energy when he's fighting, and it was like I was trying to live up to that a little bit. I think I was like,
you're saying the same thing about you. You're saying the same thing about you.
Okay, great. Well, that was funny because I was like really like trying. Oh, he has so much power. He's really trying. So I was really like trying to live up to him. I was like, I have like trying to get myself to this point by taking courses and like all these things, and he's just going out and just doing it. Like, it was amazing.
Well, it definitely came across as awesome to us for sure. For sure.
Right.
Yeah, and then at the end of that battle too, there's a moment where like he's starting to get pinned down by some of Edward's men. What was going on at that moment too? Was he like trying to just fight to the end, or was like he already starting to maybe think, ooh, I need to switch sides here again? What was going through him?
He didn't want to switch sides.
No.
Rognvaldr, he was like, I think because he found his brother. That was, I think, for him, it's the ultimate goal, and that was also why after Zitrick died, at that point, I was like, okay, what is this ultimate goal? And then it's like he always want either to get close to his brother, or what would his brother do? He has that kind of approach, either to get close to him, which makes sense for him to try to a little bit he wants to get his power back from him. So basically he wants to get his power back. That was like after he died, I was like, what does he want to do? And that's also why I got so happy he got to be king. He got to take in his brother's position, because that was why it's ultimate taking his power back.
Yeah.
But no, in that scene he never wanted to surrender or switch sides.
Yeah. The way I saw it was like he realized when they were captured, they were walking up. Then when Uhtred comes out and talks to them, we hear him say something like, "So it is over for us then." Yeah. You know, and that's the moment I thought, okay. And we then later find out that he does say we must get baptized. You know, we must do it.
And why do you think he says that? What is your take on why is he doing that?
Well, because he wants to stay alive, is what I thought, and that he, like you said earlier, like this character, he's smart enough to know that like he might get killed if he doesn't do that.
I was in toss up here because the first battle at Efferwich, I was definitely like, this guy, he's switching sides. He's afraid of dying. He fucked up. His brother's gonna kill him. But this time I was like, is he just trying to, show like, hey, like I can do this, brother. You don't have to be so proud. Join me. Or is he being coward? I really didn't know there. What was your approach there?
Yeah.
What was your thought?
That was also a fun thing because it was like I was talking to the director about it, and there was definitely a part of him that he don't want to die. He don't want to die.
Right.
But my feeling was just that he's not a character where, to be real honest, destiny is all, but not towards Valhalla. It's like he has more like an approach like, okay, but if we die now, then what if we succeeded with? We need to stay alive. That's a part of being a warrior. And that was why he was like, for me, he made the first move because he knew that Sigtryggr wouldn't do it. And this was the only thing he could do to try and persuade him into do it. It was by making the first move. And that's why he sits and he's like, we have to do it.
Cool.
That was my approach. For me, that was the loving approach to it. And that's also why he looks so much to him and talks so much to Sigtryggr at that point. He knows that his brother is so loyal to his gods, and for Rognvaldr, that is not a reason to get killed, to be loyal to the gods. He's like, he don't want his brother to die because of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And it's interesting because your character at the beginning is sort of telling your brother about how you just found the gods, something in your life, like you've had a revelation and you've changed. And so it's sort of a twist for me watching at the beginning, all the pure Dane talk, it's got to be pure Dane, get these Christians out of here. And then he's the one to go to the knee and say, I will be, we must do it,
Yeah, exactly. And that was also the thing I think I was fighting a little bit against. I think the both the directors and the writers wanted, like when I saw it, it was like, they wanted him to really be a coward. They really wanted him to be a coward, but I always tried to find the brave reason for why he did things, or the loving reason for why he did things, so he wouldn't just turn into this cowardly weasel that I would also just be like, eh. Like I wanted him to have reasons for everything he did, and wanting him to fight for something he believed in.
Well, I'm glad to hear your reason. I thought that's to be sort of the example of Sigtryggr, like, look, I can do this, like we can try to survive this, and so you don't have to die. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's like him. He has so much pride that he don't want to walk through the mud.
Exactly.
So, and Rognvaldr doesn't have that pride, so he doesn't have any. So if there needs to be walked through mud, he can do the dirty work, And I think that's a very noble character, that he can go through all these things that are not noble.
Totally. It's interesting. Yeah, that's what I think. Rognvaldr is such an interesting character. There's a lot of depth to his character.
What was it like being on set too for that whole scene there with Sigtrygg's death and that whole scene? What was that like for you?
Well, it was great. It was like it must have been one of the first real scenes I also have with Alexander and with Tim, and it's like, to have all these, like, all of a sudden we are like more, I was a part of something that was more collected, so that was really fun. Cool. And then it's like such an emotional scene, as I was just focusing on that. It's like, just Sigtryggr is just dying, like he's gonna die. Ace and Sigtryggr it was such a brave choice that he made. It was like amazing, and when you look at it on screen, it's amazing. And I am like, so proud of my brother. He's like he's amazing. He's an amazing actor, and he just makes a strong character choices. So I was also like, okay, but what is Rognvaldr going to do? And I was like, we don't have any character that's just crying his eyes out. So in the background all the time, I'm just sitting and crying, sulking. Yeah. Like I was just trying to do that the whole day, because it's like, it's love. And when your brother dies and that's his only family, the only hope he has, is just out the window.
During the funeral scene, there's something I'm curious about, because did you read the books at all getting ready for the role?
I did read. I didn't read all of them. I must admit, I didn't read all of them, but I did read this one, Warriors of the Storm, where Ragnvaldr comes in, because I wanted to see who he was based on, and he's like so different.
Very different. Yeah.
And in a way, I'm quite happy because I really love that I didn't that I got the opportunity to do something else than like this big strong man. He's like a boy. He's like a kid. He's a child, and that and to get that from the script was just great.
And I read the book, and I like Ragnar in the book, but I don't think he's nearly as interesting as a character as Rognvaldr was in the show.
He's not that much in it. I was so scared when I read it because he's like in the beginning, and then he's in the end, and then they just talk about him. I was like, oh, what have I got myself into?
And one of the things they talk about, which I thought was interesting, is that part of the reason he was at odds with Sigtrygr was for Ragnar's love for Steora, or he wanted Steora.
Yeah.
And there's a line when during the funeral pyre for Sigtrygr where you say, "We should unite in grief." To Steora. Is that something the show is going for, to just try to show a little bit like Rognvaldr's just trying to make a move here, or not?
Yeah, like I can't say what they wanted to do, but I think so. I think it's like, well, it's also just he is just inappropriate. I don't think Rognvaldr means to be, but it's like it's not because he's doing it on purpose, but he just goes with his emotions, and then he's like standing at his brother's funeral, and he's like basically the reason why he got into this whole fight and got killed, and then he's like saying to his wife that they should unite in grief. It's like she hates him. It's like, why are you even trying? But he is trying because she then is also the closest person to get close to Sigtrygr. It's like the love of his life. He wants to be like Sigtrygr. He wants to be king. He's like, okay, he wants to be close to the love of his brother's life, you know? Yeah, that was what I think, but I think it's an amazing scene because I get that he gets that verbal slap in the face from Uhtred as well, which is so funny.
Totally. Yeah, and Ruby Hartley and Steora says something, "My grief is that he died and you did not."
And it was just fun throughout the whole thing. Me, like Rognvaldr and Steora just hated each other. And it was so much fun for me and Ruby to just have that dynamic. She hates him so much, and he keeps trying. And sometimes he's like being like, you know, when someone hates you and you get a little bit spiteful towards them, even though you actually like them. That's Rognvaldr. He tries so hard to not get his power taken away from him that he just gets mean instead.
And was there anything else you did to prepare for this role? You talked a lot about your approach to acting, and you said you read the book. Did you do any other research or anything?
Well, of course, I watched the series, and well, there was a lot of like small things I did. I wanted him to have another physique as well. So there's a lot of things that I try to give him. And for example, like he has this vest of leather on that is like armor, and for him it's uncomfortable. So there's like a lot of scenes where he's like when he's preparing for stuff, he's like correcting it because I found myself doing it. So it's like you see him do that. I think they cut many of those out, I think, because like, but it's like he's doing that quite a lot when he's like getting prepared for stuff. When he's preparing himself, he's like correcting his armor. So, and then he has like the physique that he's like walking with his arms far out. He's trying to be bigger. Right. He's trying to appear bigger than he is. He's not overdoing it, but when I did it, it felt bigger than it came across on screen. But it was like it didn't get too much either, so that was good. The physique definitely was something I did to prepare for the part, and then I tried to give him another accent, because it's like Ace's accent is like he's from Iceland, so it's like I prepared a lot and I had a voice coach for that, and then basically I just did the technique that I'm doing.
Was that technique, is that something you learned like coming into when you were starting into acting, or was that something you picked up later on?
I was so lucky that my mentor, Tua Lindhardt, which is the guy who actually plays Uhtred. So he has been my mentor since I began, basically when I was 18. So, and he's been really coaching me a lot, and we started out instantly because he already did it back then, the Ivana Chopok technique. And I've tried a lot of other techniques, but this one resonates with me. I was so fortunate to then also go on and got the chance to, because I had worked with it for such a long time, then during the pandemic, I became a certified teacher as well in this technique. So I really had it under my skin. So now I also teach it and I get coached by Ivana herself. And it's just, it's really preparing me for everything. It's really been preparing me for so much. If anybody is listening and they want to do acting, look into that. It's a 12-step program where you go through 12 steps with everything. We always go after winning, and we use our own. She always says that we use our shit from our past, our traumas, in our work today, so we can get a better future. So it's always going towards that, is to present some kind of resolution. So we're trying to work with all our traumas, all the things we are battling with in our acting, so we get it out, and we act out those emotions. So we go towards some sort of resolution.
Cool. Now, how did you get into acting?
Well, it was not a fun story, but I wanted to be an illustrator, and then I figured out that like I was sitting and drawing all the time, and then I went to an animation school, and I was sitting down for 6 hours a day, and I was just like, I can't do this. After half a year, I was like, I can't sit down. I'm too physical a being. Basically, I just found like this thing on the internet that it said that they needed actors for this little short film, and then I applied for it, and then it sort of took on from there. And then I just liked doing it, and then
yeah. And then you got into stunt work after that, doing stunts and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I knew pretty quick. It was actually only a couple of years after, because I started when I was I must have been, but I turned 18. I turned 18 when I attended my first this acting program, and I was 20 when I went to the Australian Stunt Academy. So it was like pretty quick. I knew that I've always loved doing stunts, and even from when I was little, I did a lot of stunts, and we like threw ourselves off hills and stuff like that. So I thought it was quite interesting. So then I just figured it would be a good thing for acting. So
yeah, absolutely, it's like an asset. And we know Yeppo is an ex-stuntman, and we had Levente on, and we love talking about the stunts. Like, what are some of the hardest stunts you've done in your career?
Well, I haven't. Jeppe is a really skilled stuntman, and Levente is a really skilled stuntman. So it's like I don't work professionally in that way. I'm teaching the basics, so I want to do all the basics. But when we were at the Stunt Academy as well, it was like we did like high fall. So it's like 10 meter falling down from 10 meters, getting like hit by cars, and like all these things. But basically I love more doing like the small things that are like, because we also do it more like in the Scandinavian countries. It's like we do more like bar fight scenes. So that's what I know, like bar fight scenes, rolling over tables, and like almost like a little bit cowboy style. But that's why it's so much fun, because that's when you don't feel like you put yourself in really dangerous situations where it's like, okay, if this goes wrong, it really goes horribly wrong. I love when it's just like, it's really fun, and you can get a sore shoulder, or you can get like bruises or stuff like that, but it's like, it's still within it's just like kids play,
Yeah, absolutely. So going back real quick to The Last Kingdom, the one other scene that I love that you were in was that we call these like the SEAL Team 6 missions that we love in The Last Kingdom, where they're sneaking in, and it was the ice scene.
Yeah.
And we know Rognvaldr knows all about ice, as he tells Steo, right? I mean, it doesn't change the nature of ice. We love that line. But what was it like to do that night shoot where you guys are sneaking into Ethelhelm's camp?
Well, it was fun, but it was also just it was shot like in over like different days, So it's like when they really like walk on the ice, that's like a big area outside that they've made. There's just wood, and they've coated it, so it's painted. And then we were by a lake, so that's when we're coming into like we are actually close to a lake, and then we go in. So it's like it was filmed over, and that was in another location. So it was filmed over different days, but it was so much fun to do, and also because we have these different warrior bands that comes in, so it's like to get to lead one of those was really fun. So like get to go first in one of these was like really the second unit, so to speak.
Yeah, you're like giving signals, you like slow down, and you're like, all right, now go.
The director was like, you're doing that bird thing.
Yeah.
I'm doing a bird thing. Great. I love that.
Oh, we love those scenes. Those scenes. Now, you talked a little bit earlier about having this sort of backstory for Rognvaldr. Could you maybe dive into that a little bit more?
I tried to figure out as much as I possibly could, but it's so funny because I'm not that big of a history nerd.
No,
so
okay.
it's like it is like I really just I wanted to figure out as much as Rognvaldr as I possibly could, and I easily get confused also because Sigtrygg is also sometimes in history called Citric. And
yeah,
it's like there's all these weird mix-ups of the characters. And then when I'm at the same time I was reading the book, watching the series, it's like there was all these different layers going into it. The book, of course, is like also a fiction, so it takes a lot on that is like historical, but of course there's some fiction added to it.
Of course.
So because we don't really know exactly what happened, of course, there's always a layer of that. The books is not the same as the history, and the Last Kingdom is not exactly the same as the books. So it's like going in and shooting it. I was like, it was a thing between knowing enough of the story and the history between the characters that I can use it, so it's not confusing either to what Carnival and Netflix want to make of this season.
Sure.
I tried to use as much as possible, and for me, the big thing was that Rognvaldr got left, to die, right. Because that made my whole reason to not hate him.
Totally.
It was really because otherwise he's just this mean little brother. But here it's just a game for him. Yeah. He's like, okay, you won the first thing, now I'm gonna try and win, but we still love each other. I'm just trying to take you out. I'm just trying to take your kingdom. It's like a game of chess for him.
Right. And I'm also interested in like that time period between like the shipwreck that Sigtrygg refers to and like when you found Brida. I was wondering, I wonder what happened with Rognvaldr in that time. Did you just find her and like what she was saying just spoke to him? And
well, that is the thing. Is like I could only guess. What happened is not really addressed in either in the season, not either in of course in history or basically for me I basically just like he's a huge opportunist, and it's like he's a sea raider, like, which is basically just a pirate. So it's like he stumbled upon Brida, at some point, and then he sees an opportunity,
right?
And then it's like she's probably talking about Stiora. He's heard about Stiora. He's paid his way into knowing where his brother is, and he has his new wife Stiora. All of a sudden, she's like babbling about that, and then he tried to lure himself into that. He's like, so that was what I think has happened.
Cool.
Because I couldn't imagine that Brida deliberately recruited him.
No,
I think she just took. Yeah, when he came into the picture, she was just like, okay.
All right, here's the plan. Yeah, cool.
Golden ticket.
And what are some things that you love about Rognvaldr?
Love everything.
Yeah.
No, but of course, but it's like one of the things I specifically love is that he's a kid.
Yeah.
And I think that is in a series that is so filled with people trying to be grown up, and in a time period where you needed to be grown up really fast, then to be able to bring a character that has never grown up and that it makes choices from a kid's perspective, that make me really happy.
Right. Cool.
He's not mean, so he's not doing evil things and he's not doing good things. He is just doing what he needs to do, basically.
Right.
Because he's a kid, and kids do weird things and they do mean things and they take each other's toys and they all of a sudden kiss a stranger, and they do all these weird things. And I know I have a 1-year-old that is like doing all these weird things, and all of a sudden there's a kid she has never met, and then she kisses that little kid, and then it's like, and then she's, I don't know, just banging someone's head that she doesn't know, and waving to someone, screaming at them because she doesn't know them. So it's like, is that irrationality is what I love about it. Yeah. What about you guys? What if you should say one thing that you like about Rognvaldr? And you can also say one thing that you hate.
One thing I hate.
I just wanted to present that opportunity.
Oh, okay.
I like his sort of scrappy strength that he has. Like carried the bar. He fought at that battle at the camp. Like they were wrecking the place. Before Edward rolls in. So yeah, that's what I like about him.
I like that, you know, there is that deep love. Like, did he betray his brother? Yeah, but there's also that sense that he was truly trying to get his brother to like convert to Brita into this new kind of idea of the gods. I thought, you know what I mean? It wasn't just that he was being deceitful and betraying his brother. He was also trying to do what he thought was good for his brother in a way.
And he's saving his brother.
Right, in his mind, right?
He's literally saving his brother.
Yeah.
He kills him because he gets ordered to do it. But like when they're battling the first time, Sihtric is about to be killed, and he stabs him with a spear.
Exactly.
And that's also why he said, "I saved you." He's like, he doesn't want to kill him.
Right.
Then he would have been dead.
Totally.
Sihtric would have been dead. Yeah.
That's cool.
I get that. The love.
Mm-hmm.
The love.
That's cool.
Is there anything you have for the fans too? Like, because you said, is it mostly negative reactions? Is that what you're getting from the fans? Like, what
no, I get so much. I get so much positivity. And I'm really grateful for everyone that has written me and everyone that still keeps writing and keep commenting, and everybody's so nice. All the fans to The Last Kingdom, everybody is so just genuinely nice, and I feel so honored to be to receive all this kindness from people I've never met. I just get so happy when people both say that they really like the character, or that they love to hate this character, or you know, all these things, you know, because it's great. It doesn't happen often, but if I read a comment where it's like half negative, I think there was one where he was like, he's so forgettable.
Oh,
but for me, that was so interesting. If this character is really forgettable, it's like, I was like, wow, okay.
They must have been paying attention to the show.
There was so many strong choices, and he's like so different than many. But I just love it still, because it's like, that's what I think this character can. People can have whatever opinion about this character that they want, and that's what he can bring to the table. That people can have whatever emotion they need to feel about him, and everything is okay.
Yeah, I think there's a range of emotions you could feel about him. Some people might love him, like, and I like the character, and
some people love him, some like him, some things he's like some hates him, some
pity him. I would say too.
Pity him. Some things he's a coward and a weasel, and it's just, for me, I just think it's great, because that's an opportunity. Yeah. I think to give, and that Rognvaldr gives to people, is that they can have whatever emotion they need.
Have you seen the new season 2? Have you seen it since it's come out?
Yeah, I have watched it. I needed to. I needed to find a way to watch it, but also because it's like many actors are like they hate watching themselves, but I'm just not that actor. Right. I love watching myself because I learn so much from it.
Yeah.
And I just enjoy when you have made something, and it's just when you've really poured your heart into it, and then see what comes out of it. Because as an actor, it's like, there are so many scenes I've made, and I didn't know how many of those scenes made it to the final cut.
Yeah.
And I was so curious, like, what have they chosen to do with it, and what direction has the directors and the producers, and they've made amazing choices. Like, it's an amazing season. Also, just from just the watcher's point of view, is like, I love all the other scenes as well. Just as engaged when it was not about Rognvaldr, and it was like, I was just watching everything. I was just like, also because so many of the characters we know and I followed, and so it was just an amazing season.
As a fan, were you happy with the ending too? Were you satisfied with that?
Well, I think it's hard, because I really like satisfied is a weird word, because satisfied. I was not satisfied with it ending. You know, it's like, as many has also written, it's like, we want another season.
Want more?
You know? We want more too. More. Totally.
We want more, and it becomes like a weird sort of satisfaction. But there was a huge satisfaction in finally, like, just having Uhtred back at Beppenberg.
Yeah.
You know, that thing in itself, because Uhtred has taught so much about Beppenberg, and about that is his destiny, and that is the catchphrase of the whole series, that destiny is all. So you just really just long for him to just be there. I don't know what is happening, no matter what is happening. It's like he could be battling, he could be just laying down, like whatever. You just want him to be back there.
Totally.
So it was both satisfactory, but also not.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're not satisfied that it's over. We're so thankful that there's going to at least be a movie. So otherwise, I think we'd been a wreck at the end of season 5 here. So
yeah,
very excited for the film. And then one other thing we were super satisfied with, and of course this was a vitally important scene to the show, was the making of the square in that one episode. And you were the hype man for the making of the square, which I just wanted to throw that in there real quick, because we love when they make the square, and to see them actually make it this season.
Yeah,
you were there branches. Like, let's go. It was pretty cool.
Great, because that was something we found out on the spot, I think, because I don't think Rognvaldr had anything to do really. So we were like, what is he going to do? And then he would just try to take charge of everything. And I don't know if he's even in charge. He's just like trying to take charge of it. And maybe he is a little bit, and it's like, yeah. So good, but also great that there's like so many of these like small details that you guys notice, because there was also some of the things where I was like, that maybe are people going to notice this? And it's like, because often things go so fast.
It does.
And there's so many things to keep track on.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in a series like this where we have like so many characters,
totally.
amazing characters to follow. So it's like, the details. I'm just glad to hear that so many details gets picked up from everybody.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about Last Kingdom fans, is that they're going to rewatch, and every time they rewatch, they're going to see new things, and it's going to make them love the show even more, which is why this show is really so amazing.
Was there any specific moment from the show that you were very proud of, that you got to do or be a part of?
My favorite scene was the one with the iron rod, the boiling, to get the opportunity to do a scene like that, which is also ending an episode and beginning another one, and it's like this cliffhanger, and it's just amazing. And then to have and to do it with Ace and Ruby, and such great people that was so supportive as well, and great directors and stuff that was just really wanted this thing to be the best thing possible. Yeah, it was just an amazing thing, and I loved that scene.
Such a memorable scene.
It's definitely one of the favorite things I've done, because there's so many great scenes, but that one is just sticks out to me so much.
Cool. The snot, the forehead vein too. When you're doing it, like just pop that thing.
Let's just pop that, and I don't know how I did that.
You made the trailer too. That moment too, when you pick it up.
This vein is just going. Yeah.
It's like
the big vein, pop out, get angry.
It's awesome. Do you have any future works that you'd like to share?
Not really right now. I don't have anything that I can share right now. But yeah, so basically right now, also because the after I came home from the Last Kingdom, from the shoot, is like so much of my time has just been evolving around my daughter.
Of course.
So just because like we shot like a year ago, and so you can quickly imagine that things happened like quite closely.
Sure.
So it's just basically I've been a lot with my daughter, and then I've just been coaching a lot.
That's the most important thing. This is the most important thing.
Yeah. So that has been the biggest thing right now.
Cool.
Do you have any goals that you want to still accomplish from your career? Any sort of like dream projects or anything like that you'd love to do?
I was so fortunate. Like, I'm just always anecdoting and like going back, but I'm telling another story, which is like I met my fiance on this series we did for something called Black Pills, which is like Luc Besson that's created like this, which his company, Together Media 2, created the Black Pills app. Doing this series, I was like, oh, finally. Like now I have my breakthrough, and that was like a goal to get to do like a big thing like this. And then all of a sudden things just kept rolling, and then you keep having goals. It's like, then what is the next thing? So for me, it is right now, it's just I'm more open to things. It's like, okay, what's going to come now? And for me, like the next goal came like, get this thing out. And also because right now I can tell you that I live in Sweden, and I'm Danish, and I'm just living across the bridge from Denmark. And right now, the Last Kingdom season 4 hasn't aired yet on Netflix. We are still waiting for season 4, and I'm in season 5. But it's just like it hasn't come out on Netflix yet, and I have no idea why. But it's just there is another, isn't like if you can call it a career goal, but it's like also a thing where I'm just longing, and that's a goal in itself, that it just comes out and I can be able to share it in another way with the Danish and Swedish industry, because otherwise it's like you have to either buy it or you don't just get it when you log onto Netflix.
Hopefully that happens soon.
Come on, Netflix. Come on.
Let's go.
Give it all out.
What type of movies and shows, like what kind of genres do you typically like?
Well, I love, it's boring, but I love action.
Cool.
So do we.
I love action. I would have loved to have been one of those people that are like really artsy fartsy and be like, oh, I love these French, blah, blah. But I don't, and I'm not really that type. I love action, and like, for example, some of my favorite series are like Criminal Minds and Lie to Me. You know, it's like that has been some of my favorites before The Last Kingdom. So it's like that is like the type of things I've watched a lot.
And your daughter, what are some other hobbies or personal interests?
Well, I love reading, and I love I read a lot of books, and I love human psychology, but it all blends in. I think it all blends into each other. And
sure.
Yeah, what can I say? I love teaching, that aspect of it, like giving on like the chopper technique and just acting in general. I love that.
Nice.
I love drawing still.
Cool. I noticed you were doing some rock climbing on your Instagram and stuff like that.
Exactly. That was also that I love that as well. But also because I've done a lot of parkour.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, not the recent years, because it was hard with the acting. As soon as I started acting, really, then it's been hard to really find the time. But I am educated also a parkour instructor, so that's also And then I work with troubled young, actually. So I work with kids and young people who have been into drugs and have done a lot of crime and all these things. So I also work with that, and that's a huge that's just amazing thing to do. And then I work with them and then just try to take them out of their environment. And
that's pretty amazing, Micki. That's pretty amazing. Nice. Yeah. Good for you. That's all good stuff.
Like maybe that was not as much as about interest, but it is like a lot of those things that fill my life.
Yeah, we just want to learn about you too as an actor, as a person, and that's pretty awesome.
Read a lot of children's books right now.
Yeah.
That is good.
Cat in the Hat. Yeah.
Yeah, the Cat in the Hat. All the Dr. Seuss books are like but
they're brilliant. Actually, they're brilliant.
They're amazing. They're really amazing.
Thank you again so much, Micki, for talking with here today. And
it was a pleasure. Like it was like the time has just gone so fast. It
really has.
I know.
Talking to you guys, it was like, wow, it's been really, really fun, guys, and it's been it went so fast. And thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. After we watched season 5, we were just like, we got to get him on the podcast. Because like we said, such an interesting character, so much depth to your character, and you killed it. You really killed it this season, and thank you for all the hard work you put into it to make it special for us fans.
Thank you so much, guys, and it means a lot. There are so many that are supporting both The Last Kingdom and also me and Rognvaldr. It just means a lot, and I just thank you to everyone for that, and especially you guys for having me on the show. Really great.
Awesome.
And everyone watching, listening, make sure you check out, we'll link Micki's stuff down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow us too. And otherwise, it's like we always say, goodbye.
And destiny
is all.